there is a moment, right before a lie completely falls apart, where the person telling it still believes they are completely safe. They have rehearsed every answer, prepared every expression, calculated every possible response to every possible question. They have told this particular lie so many times, to so many people, for so long, that it no longer feels like lying. It just feels like the story of their life. Vanessa Cole was in that moment when she wheeled herself through the courtroom doors, and she looked absolutely untouchable. Detonned her sunglasses indoors, a silk scarf draped perfectly around her neck, rings on nearly every finger, a handbag that cost more than most people's car payments, and the wheelchair, polished, gleaming, positioned just right under the courtroom lights, completing the image she had spent an entire year building for the world to see. Behind her, phone raised and already recording, was her personal assistant, not to document evidence, not for legal purposes, for content. That detail, that single revealing detail, made Judge Judy look up from her file immediately, because Judge Judy had been on that bench for a very long time. She had watched hundreds of people walk into that courtroom carrying their lies like shields, and she had learned one truth above all others. The people most desperate to control the narrative are almost always the ones with the most to hide. She studied Vanessa carefully from across the room, the practiced tilt of the head, the soft, fragile expression rehearsed into perfect vulnerability, the expensive heels, high, pointed, completely inappropriate footwear for someone claiming severe and permanent spinal damage. Judge Judy noticed all of it, but she said nothing yet. Because, seated at the defense table on the other side of the courtroom, was a woman who looked like she had not slept properly in months. Her name was Angela Ramirez. No camera crew, no assistant, no performance. Just a woman in a plain blazer with dark circles under her eyes and trembling hands quietly organizing the papers in front of her. A woman who had spent 15 years building a fitness studio in Los Angeles from absolute zero. Loans taken against her apartment, double restaurant shifts worked in the evenings, every single dollar reinvested until the business finally stood on its own. 15 years of sacrifice, 15 years of early mornings and late nights, and missed holidays and choices that cost her in ways that never showed up on any financial statement. And now a stranger she had invited as a promotional partner was trying to erase all of it with a lawsuit demanding $250,000. Angela was not just fighting for money. She was fighting for the only thing she had ever truly built. But here is what you need to understand before this story goes any further. Vanessa Cole did not walk into that courtroom as a simple opportunist. She did not wake up one morning and decide to be a fraud. The lie she was living had started much smaller, almost accidentally, and had grown into something so large and so profitable that by the time she sat down across from Angela Ramirez, she had convinced herself that she deserved everything it had given her. 12 months before this hearing, Vanessa was a lifestyle influencer with 40,000 followers and a career that was quietly dying. She had been posting fashion content, skincare routines, and travel photos for 3 years. The early momentum had flatlined. Brand deals had slowed to almost nothing. She had watched peers she started alongside grow past hundreds of thousands of followers, while her own numbers barely moved. Every month that passed made it clearer that the internet had simply moved on from whatever she was offering. She was 26 years old. She had no degree, no backup plan, and an apartment she could no longer comfortably afford. The one thing she had built her identity around, her online presence, was fading. Then one evening, Vanessa posted a single photograph from a hospital waiting room. It was not dramatic. Just her sitting in a plastic chair, head leaning against the wall, looking tired and small. She wrote a brief caption about a health scare that had frightened her. Nothing specific, nothing exaggerated. By morning, it had received more engagement than anything she had posted in 2 years combined. People were hungry for something real, for vulnerability, for a beautiful, polished person admitting that their life was not perfect. Vanessa felt the shift immediately. She felt it in the notification numbers, in the comment tone, in the way her follower count ticked upward for the first time in months. And somewhere in that feeling, a calculation began. What if the story got bigger? What if the health scare became something more serious? What if beautiful, confident, glamorous Vanessa Cole had faced something truly devastating and survived it? The car accident story came together over the course of several weeks. She researched spinal injuries carefully. She studied the language disabled creators used online. She watched hours of content from people living with genuine paralysis to understand how it looked, how it sounded, how it felt to the audience. Then she built her version. The hospital videos came first. Soft lighting, emotional music chosen deliberately, her voice carefully fragile, but never quite broken, strong enough to seem brave, vulnerable enough to seem real. She spoke about waking up after the accident, about the moment doctors told her the news, about what it felt like to understand that her life had permanently changed. None of it had happened, but every word was designed to feel like it had. The internet responded in a way that exceeded even Vanessa's calculation. Her following tripled in the first 60 days. Then it doubled again. Within 4 months, she had crossed 2 million followers. Brand partnerships arrived that were 3 times larger than anything she had managed before. A medical recovery donation fund she set up, almost casually, almost as an experiment, generated tens of thousands of dollars within its first week. The wheelchair became the centerpiece of everything. She chose it carefully. The right model, the right color, the right aesthetic for her feed. It appeared in photo shoots, in brand content, in every video. It was always perfectly positioned, always well lit, always part of the visual language she was selling. Disability had become her brand, and it was the most profitable thing she had ever done. For nearly a year, it worked perfectly. Nobody questioned it. Nobody investigated. The audience wanted to believe in Vanessa's story because the story made them feel something: hope, admiration, the particular comfort of watching someone survive something terrible with grace and style. But then she made a mistake. She invited herself into the wrong person's business. And that business had security cameras. Here is what Vanessa's lawsuit actually claimed. According to the legal filing, Angela's fitness studio had deliberately discriminated against a disabled woman during a private influencer partnership event. Vanessa's legal team argued that the studio's entrance was intentionally inaccessible, that equipment had been arranged in a way that excluded wheelchair users, and that multiple staff members had openly mocked Vanessa's condition in front of other guests. The lawsuit used words like humiliation, like deliberate cruelty, like targeted discrimination against a vulnerable individual. It was written to destroy. And in the world of social media, a discrimination lawsuit does not need a courtroom verdict to cause damage. The filing alone, the headline, the allegation, the public accusation is often enough. Clients cancel memberships. Corporate partners quietly disappear. The story spreads faster than any correction ever could. Angela had watched her studio's inquiry numbers drop within days of the lawsuit becoming public. 2 corporate wellness accounts she had been negotiating with went silent overnight. A local newspaper ran a brief story using only Vanessa's version of events. because Angela, on the advice of her lawyer, could not publicly respond. For 3 months before this hearing, Angela had been fighting a battle she was not allowed to fight openly. She had watched Vanessa continue posting content online, emotional videos, sponsorship deals, brand partnerships. While the lawsuit quietly suffocated the business, Angela had sacrificed everything to build. $250,000 in damages. That number was not chosen accidentally. It was chosen because it was large enough to bankrupt a small independent studio completely. Large enough that even winning the case would leave Angela financially damaged from legal fees alone. Vanessa had not just filed a lawsuit. She had calculated exactly how much damage it would take to make Angela disappear. What she had not calculated was Angela keeping every single piece of evidence from that day. Every email, every text message, every internal security camera file from the moment Vanessa's SUV pulled into the parking lot to the moment she left. Every single second of it. Honduras. Judge Judy glanced down at the open file in front of her and then looked directly at Vanessa. "You're suing for $250,000, she said, her voice calm but carrying an unmistakable edge. "That is a significant amount of money. Tell me exactly what happened." Vanessa immediately softened her voice into the gentle, fragile tones she had perfected across hundreds of online videos. "Your Honor," she began slowly, "I have suffered unimaginable trauma since my accident. Every single day involves some level of pain. Every movement carries a cost. But despite everything I have been through, I have tried to remain positive for the people who follow my journey and find hope in it." She paused for effect. The tissue appeared from somewhere. "When Angela invited me to promote her studio online, I believed it was a safe and respectful opportunity. I arrived in good faith, but when I got there, the entrance had stairs that weren't properly accommodated. Equipment was positioned in ways that made wheelchair access impossible, and members of her staff whispered about me and exchanged looks like I was some kind of inconvenience they hadn't expected to actually show up." She dabbed beneath her sunglasses. "I felt humiliated. Your Honor. I felt like less than a person." Several audience members looked visibly sympathetic. Vanessa had spent a year perfecting the performance of vulnerability. She knew exactly how to deploy it, but Judge Judy was not reacting emotionally. She was doing what she had done for 3 decades. She was studying details. The expensive high heels Vanessa was wearing despite supposedly severe and permanent paralysis. The naturally crossed legs beneath the decorative blanket draped over the wheelchair. The immaculate manicure on hands that showed absolutely no collusing or strain from genuine long-term wheelchair use. The way Vanessa's posture shifted slightly, too fluidly, too easily when she reached for her tissue. Judge Judy had spent a lifetime reading liars, and something was very wrong here. Angela Ramirez looked at the judge and took a long, steadying breath before she began. "None of what she just described happened, Your Honor." Vanessa scoffed audibly. Angela did not look at her. "She arrived at my studio with a camera crew and an assistant and immediately began making demands before she had even entered the building. She wanted certain staff members repositioned. She wanted the lighting changed. She kept directing her camera crew while simultaneously asking my employees leading questions designed to capture usable footage for social media." Judge Judy leaned forward slightly. "What kind of footage?" "Confrontation footage," Angela said clearly. "She wasn't there to experience the studio. She was there to manufacture conflict she could post online. My trainer noticed it within the first 10 minutes. She said she felt like she was being set up." Vanessa's voice cut in sharply. "That is completely." Judge Judy's hand went up instantly. "Mrs. Cole." "You will wait!" Vanessa fell silent, visibly irritated beneath her composed expression. Angela continued, her voice gaining steadiness as she spoke. Eventually, she claimed that one of my trainers laughed at her wheelchair during a group moment. That never happened. I reviewed our own internal security footage immediately. There was nothing. No laughter, no mockery, no accessibility failure. She paused. 3 weeks after that visit, I received notice of this lawsuit. Vanessa leaned forward with renewed emotion in her voice. Because your studio discriminated against a disabled woman, and you need to be held accountable. Judge Judy turned toward her with an expression that ended the performance immediately. Mrs. Cole, she said quietly, I will not ask you again. The courtroom went completely still. Hungry? Judge Judy flipped through several pages of the file deliberately before looking up again. Mrs. Ramirez, she said, you submitted surveillance footage to this court. Yes, Your Honor. Vanessa's posture changed. It was subtle, almost imperceptible. But Judge Judy caught it immediately. The slight stiffening of the shoulders, the almost invisible tightening around the jaw. The bailiff rolled a television monitor into position at the front of the courtroom. The audience went completely quiet. Judge Judy looked at Vanessa one final time before giving the instruction. Mrs. Cole, she said calmly, is there anything you would like to clarify before we view this footage? Vanessa smiled with practiced confidence. No, Your Honor. I have nothing to hide. Judge Judy nodded once. Play the video. The screen flickered to life. The footage was from a security camera positioned above the parking lot entrance of Angela's fitness studio. The timestamp in the bottom corner showed a date 3 weeks prior to the lawsuit being filed. The image quality was clear, unambiguous. A black luxury SUV pulled smoothly into the parking area. The engine stopped. The driver's side door opened, and Vanessa Cole stepped out. Not slowly, not painfully, not assisted by anyone. She stepped out of the vehicle in tight athletic clothing, closed the door behind her with one hand, and slung a gym bag over her shoulder in a single easy motion. The courtroom erupted. Audience members gasped loudly. Someone near the back said, "Oh my God, clearly enough for the microphones to record it." People turned to look at each other in disbelief. But the footage was not finished. Vanessa walked, casually, fluidly, completely normally, to the rear of the SUV and opened the trunk. She reached inside, and she pulled out the wheelchair. She had driven herself to the location. She had walked across the parking lot without any assistance or difficulty. And she had personally retrieved the wheelchair from her own vehicle's trunk. Then the camera showed her sitting down into it voluntarily, adjusting the position, smoothing the blanket across her lap, and checking her appearance in her phone camera before rolling toward the building entrance. The entire sequence lasted less than 90 seconds. It destroyed everything. Judge Judy did not speak during the footage. She did not react dramatically. She simply sat with her hands folded on her desk and watched Vanessa's face while the video played. Vanessa's face had gone completely white. When the screen went dark, the silence that fell over the courtroom was absolute. Judge Judy unfolded her hands slowly. "So," she said, her voice carrying a quiet devastation far more powerful than shouting, "would you care to explain why a woman claiming permanent paralysis is walking normally across a parking lot in heels?" Monster Vanessa's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Some spinal injuries," she finally managed, "are intermittent in nature." Judge Judy blinked once. "Intermittent paralysis?" "Yes. There are conditions where mobility varies significantly depending on, during which you also personally retrieve your own wheelchair from the trunk of your vehicle." A handful of audience members laughed before quickly going quiet. Vanessa's composure cracked visibly. You don't understand the complexity of my condition. Judge Judy's expression hardened into something final. Mrs. Cole, I understand exactly what I am looking at. I have good days and bad days. Any doctor will tell you, you were walking normally, bending normally, lifting equipment, and then preparing your wheelchair before entering the building. You are not a medical professional. The courtroom froze. Everyone recognized immediately what had just happened. Vanessa, in her desperation, had just insulted the intelligence of the one person in that room with the power to end her completely. Judge Judy leaned forward slowly. No, she said, her voice turning to ice. But unlike you, I understand how evidence works. Vanessa crossed her arms. Her jaw tightened. That footage proves nothing about my condition. Judge Judy reached calmly for another folder. Then let's continue. Hanbury Angela looked genuinely surprised. Even she had not seen everything Judge Judy was about to present. The judge pulled out a series of printed screenshots and passed them to the bailiff to display on the monitor one by one. These images come from a private Instagram account linked to your name, Judge Judy said evenly. An account you deleted approximately 6 weeks ago. Vanessa's face changed completely. I deleted those. The internet, Judge Judy said simply, is permanent. The first image appeared on screen. Vanessa Cole, standing on the rooftop terrace of a luxury hotel, laughing, holding a glass of wine, wearing stiletto heels, time-stamped 4 months after her supposed permanent paralysis. The second image, Vanessa hiking on a trail in Malibu, backpack on her shoulders, sunglasses on, hair blowing in the wind, time-stamped 6 months after her accident. The third, Vanessa standing barefoot on the railing of a yacht, arms spread wide, posing confidently for a photographer. Time-stamped 7 months after claiming she could no longer walk. The fourth, Vanessa sprinting across a beach during what appeared to be a photo shoot, laughing, holding champagne bottles above her head. Time-stamped during the exact period she was posting tearful hospital videos about her recovery struggles. With each image, the audience's sympathy evaporated further. People shook their heads. Someone near the front muttered in disgust. 2 women exchanged horrified looks. Angela sat very still at the defense table with tears running silently down her face. Not from sadness now, but from the overwhelming relief of finally being believed. Vanessa was unraveling in real time. You don't understand the pressure I was under, she snapped suddenly, her voice cracking. My audience expects inspiration constantly. The moment the emotional content stops performing, sponsors disappear. Followers leave. Everything you built just collapses overnight. Judge Judy stared at her. So you pretended to be disabled, she said slowly, for audience engagement. Vanessa heard how it sounded and immediately tried to backtrack. That's not, I didn't mean. You accepted donations tied to your disability story? A pause. Yes. You secured sponsorship deals specifically because of your claimed condition? Yes. And you used that same fabricated condition to file a lawsuit against this woman's business. The silence stretched. Answer me, Mrs. Cole. Yes. The audience reaction was beyond anything a single word could describe. Judge Judy let the silence hold for a long moment before she spoke again. When she did, her voice carried the full weight of 30 years on the bench. Do you have any real understanding of what you have done? Vanessa said nothing. There are people in this country, in this city, who live with genuine spinal injuries every single day of their lives. Real pain that does not have good days. Real limitations that cannot be packed into a car trunk when the cameras are not rolling. Real suffering that no amount of sponsorship money or social media followers can make easier. Vanessa's tears began then, and these ones, for the first time, looked real. Meanwhile, Judge Judy continued, her voice rising slightly. "You turned their reality into a marketing strategy. I never meant for it to go this far," Vanessa whispered. "You filed a $250,000 lawsuit against a woman who spent 15 years building a legitimate business. You attempted to destroy her reputation, her livelihood, and her life, because you calculated that victimhood was more profitable than honesty." She turned briefly toward Angela with an expression of genuine sympathy before turning back. "According to financial records subpoenaed by this court, you received over $180,000 in donations, brand payments, and material benefits directly connected to your fraudulent disability persona." Another wave of reaction through the audience. "You also used a temporary disabled parking placard that is currently under active investigation for fraudulent acquisition." Vanessa buried her face in her hands completely. Judge Judy was not finished. "You continued posting emotional recovery content while vacationing in Greece, while attending ticketed music festivals, while participating in paid fitness retreats." She paused. At some point, "Mrs. Cole, a lie stops being a lie and becomes a sustained criminal enterprise." Vanessa's assistant had quietly lowered the phone she had been recording with throughout the hearing. Judge Judy noticed immediately. "No," she said sharply. "You keep that camera up. If you were comfortable posting the performance online, you can post the ending too." The audience applauded for the first time. Judge Judy delivered her ruling with complete composure. "This lawsuit is dismissed in its entirety. Mrs. Cole, you will reimburse Mrs. Ramirez for every dollar spent on her legal defense, and I would strongly advise you to consult a criminal attorney before the week is out, because what this court has seen today goes considerably beyond civil misconduct." She set down her pen. "Being an influencer does not place you above shame, consequences, or the basic decency you owe to other human beings." The courtroom applause was immediate and sustained. Vanessa sat completely frozen as the hearing ended around her. Her carefully constructed image had not just been damaged. It had been dismantled piece by piece, on camera, in front of a live audience, and the footage was already being prepared for broadcast. The episode aired 6 days later. Within 48 hours, clips of the parking lot surveillance footage had been viewed over 30 million times across multiple platforms. The moment Vanessa stepped out of the SUV and casually pulled her wheelchair from the trunk became one of the most replayed courtroom moments in recent internet history. Her follower count collapsed by nearly half within the first week. Every major sponsor terminated their partnerships publicly. Her donation accounts were frozen pending investigation. The parking placard fraud case was formally opened by the relevant municipal authority. And the private photographs, the yacht, the hike, the beach sprint, circulated everywhere. Former fans who had donated money to her medical fund were vocal and furious. Several filed formal complaints. Vanessa Cole disappeared from public social media almost entirely within 3 weeks of the episode airing. Angela Ramirez's story went in the opposite direction. After millions of viewers watched her sit quietly at that defense table, exhausted, terrified, nearly broken by a lie, the public response was overwhelming. Her studio's booking platform crashed twice from the traffic volume. Donations arrived from strangers. Former clients returned and brought new ones. Local news outlets covered her story. A national fitness brand reached out about a legitimate partnership. Within 2 months, her studio had more business than at any point in its 15-year history. She gave one short interview after the verdict. "I just want people to know," she said, "that I never stopped believing the truth would come out. I just didn't know how long it would take." There is something worth sitting with at the end of this story. Vanessa Cole was not stupid. She was not unsophisticated. She understood her audience deeply. She understood how emotion travels online, and she executed her scheme with real skill for nearly a year. But she made one mistake that no amount of content strategy could fix. She forgot that the real world, parking lots, security cameras, timestamps, does not care about her narrative. She could edit the video. She could filter the photograph. She could delete the post. But she could not edit what actually happened. And the moment Judge Judy pressed play on that monitor, the gap between the performance and the truth became impossible to close. Some lies are built to last, and some are built on the assumption that no one is watching closely enough to catch them. This one was the second kind. And in the end, the thing Vanessa loved most, the camera, the audience, the attention, became the only instrument powerful enough to end her completely.